folks, and welcome to this episode of Michael's Backyard Marina. I'll go ahead and apologize in advance for the air conditioner noise, but I'm not going to apologize for how cool it's keeping the shop. It's 9:30 at night right now, and it's still 82 degrees outside. It's 73 in here, and no humidity. Feels amazing. Allows me to keep working uninterrupted due to heat stroke. Boom! Anyway, I told you this is going to be the Glasspar boat restoration project part 5. We're at part 5. Been getting some great responses on part 4. I appreciate everybody that's watched up to this point. I want you to see this boat on the water eventually. I'm excited to get this boat on the water to see what this 15 horse Johnson will do. I've had people asking me, how is that stainless prop going to work for you? How's that hydrofoil going to work? I got people saying the hydrofoil won't do nothing on a motor that small, blah, 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 blah. We'll learn it all here, folks. We'll learn it all here. So, this episode is going to be about finishing up my pole holders in the boat and getting the rest of the equipment to get me legal on the water, which is fire extinguisher. I got to get a whistle. I got to get since this boat is shorter than 16 feet, I don't have to have a throwable flotation device, which is cool. But I do have to have the fire extinguisher, and I want to put a bilge pump in here. I've got me a small Garmin fish finder coming. Hopefully be here next week, and I'll get that wired in. I got me a switch panel I want to wire in. And like I said, my first piece has showed up. I've got me a bilge pump, and it's an automatic bilge pump. Listen to this. I don't hear anything. There it goes. It's got a float inside. I'll show you. Right there. It's got a built-in float switch. And on my other boat, I didn't have that. I just had manual on, manual off. This time, I wanted to have a float switch because, you know, if you happen to be camping or staying out at a dock or having to abandon the boat for some reason if you're on a lake, and if you can't put it back together because I don't know what I'm doing. There we go. And if it's pouring down rain and you don't want to have to sit there and leave this on running continuously, you can have it so it automatically comes on and off. So if, say for instance, you know, I'm stuck out on a big lake, for instance, and I got to go dock somewhere and I want to go inside and get some shelter. Well, the boat's still going to be out there in the water possibly if I don't get it up on a trailer and out of the water. Well, in this instance, then it can sit there and automatically bilge itself out and keep the boat from sinking to the bottom of the lake. And this particular bilge pump is kind of cool because it has, and maybe not all of them are probably this way. This is my first one I've got myself that has an automatic. So you've got the red one here, which I'm thinking is the positive wire, and the black wire is the negative wire, and then you've got this brown white, which is another positive. Now the one that says hook to positive, I'm pretty sure, we'll test it, I'm pretty sure this is the one that kicks it on if the float switch is engaged. And it's got this handy dandy little thing here that you can turn. It's an external manual test, so you can flip the float up and see if it kicks on. So we'll do that. We'll check that out. The other thing I want to do is fasten this into the boat somehow. I would like for this to be, you know, kind of solidly down there. I don't want it, you know, just all over the place bouncing around. You get on some rough water and things start moving around. I want to figure out how to strap this down into my bilge area. Then I've got a bilge kit coming. Means I got to put another hole in the side of my boat, which is going to bilge the water out of the boat. So lots of exciting stuff coming. We're going to put that, like I said, this on, the fish finder on. We're going to hook up bow and stern lights. We're going to have hook up a switch panel. I've got an actual bilge pump controller, which has the on, off, and whatever to make the bilge pump work like it's supposed to, according to these 3 wires. Then the old Evinrude trolling motor. I did a little research on that thing. We got a little wiring diagram, and the way it's set up is interesting to where it can run 12 or 24 volt. And the whole idea behind this style and setup, from what I've gathered and researched and discovered, is that you can run it. You can flip the switch and run 12 volt, which will pull a little bit of power. The motor doesn't spin fast. Or you can run the 24 volt and get more power, more speed out of it, and longer cruising time or whatever. So it was an idea back in the day. I'm probably just going to hook it up to 24 volt and call it good. But This has a way to hook it up so you can pick one or the other. So I may go ahead and do that. We'll see. I'll experiment around with it. Like I said, I may still use this old trolling motor just for fun. It may do all I need it to do. Except for it won't have that anchor feature, which I really love that anchor feature on my Altera, on my Minn Kota Altera. But, well, without further ado, let's test this pump out and see what kind of noises the wires make the motor make. Does that make sense? Let's go. Now we're just going to see if this thing will work. First of all, I'm going to hook the black wire to the ground. I'm just going to hold it. And then the brown and white wire, I think, is the on all the time. It bypasses the actual switch in there. Let's see if that's the case. That is not the case. Okay, well that would appear to be that the positive, connect to positive only, is the always on. And that's what I'll run through my manual switch, is this wire. So I'm presuming that if my fingers are big enough or far enough apart, I can hold this. Let's see if I can do this somehow. Somewhere, somehow. That if I do this, I should be able to flip this switch and make it go. Yep. So the positive, so it was just the opposite of what I thought. That's why you test it before you start wiring it up. So I know this will go to my positive switch, so I can manually turn it on and off. This will go straight to a positive wire as well. But it won't be the same as this one. This will just go to a hot wire, so they can be just automatic on and off. So now we know how to hook that up. Cool, cool. Now we got to find a home in the bottom of the boat to put it. In case you're wondering which one I got, now I'm not in the habit yet of putting all these in the links in the description and all that stuff, because people aren't paying me to do this. But I can send you, I've got this off of Amazon. This is a bilge pump that it's a 12 volt, 750 gallons per hour, and it's a fully automated bilge pump, all-in-one pump and switch system. Saves installation time and space in the bilge. Extra long life, heavy duty motor, environmentally safe. Hey, what do you know? You just gotta look at the instructions. The wiring diagram will have told you everything. So yeah, it looks like you go a 3-way switch, so you can go on, off, on. Which would be another way you could hook it up. That's probably not the way I'm going to hook it up, because of the way I'm going to wire things in. I'm not going to have an on-off-on switch. I'm just going to have. Yes, actually, I will. The one I ordered will have that, so I will be able to hook it up that way. My mistake. Anyway, not to take you down the rabbit trail the wrong way, but hey, I'm doing it on the fly, folks. This isn't rehearsed. Let's get into the bottom of the boat and see where we can hang this thing or put this thing on the bottom. I'll get a little spray glue a hold of that. And we'll glue that down, and we'll glue this down. And it'll be gorgeous. And this is just big enough. And the bilge pump will sit right here in the bottom. But I got to get it over far enough and get it situated in a position so that the hose can come up and out and get and exit the boat. So I don't anticipate there being much water leaking into the boat. Like I said, this is going to be to handle any rainwater that gets in here. And we'll go from there. So that's where approximately where that's going to sit. So that's approximately where I want to put the sump or the bilge pump. But I want it to sit kind of level. Don't have to sit crazy level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a pile of this silicone I've got in here. I'm going to use it like a glue. That way I can sit here and push this down and kind of watch it mush up through a little bit. It's not really plugging a lot of the vent for water to get in, which is good. but it is coming up through this hole here a little bit and into this groove. So once that settles out, I can use that that's kind of holding things level. But that'll hold that in place nice and solid once that firms up and sets up. And yeah, this is a good thing, one of those good jobs to do before you go to bed at night, and that way in the morning it's locked down and you can set the pump in place and it's not going to move anymore. I like that. That's going to be pretty sweet. And then if I want to pull it out, it isn't permanent. I could get a knife underneath here and I could cut that silicone loose. But for all practical purposes, that's not going to go anywhere for what I'm using it for. So we'll come check that out in the morning and see how that looks. Smile for the camera.
There you go.
Say hey everybody.
Hey everybody.
Welcome to Michael's Backyard Marina.
What Michael said.
Well, as luck would have it, we had some more electronic gadgetry show up today. I've got my rear white light mount. I don't have the post yet, but we're going to get that installed in the boat. We've got, ooh, this is really cool. It comes pre-wired. All you got to do is hook up these 5 leads here. There's 1, 2, 3, 6 leads. Hook up these 6 leads to your power supply, and they've already got them fused with I believe they're 15 amp. If these are already fused with 15 amp fuses built inside, it's got my voltage. It's going to tell me my battery voltage. It's got 2 USB, a 1 amp and a 2.1 amp USB port. It's got your regular power outlet here, and it's got all your rocker switches. 6 is what I decided to go with. I'd rather have too many and not need them than not have enough and need them. So I went with 6, a panel of 6 here. This is going to go in the side of the boat. We're going to mount that, and I'll show you where that's going to go. I'm excited about that. I also got me a 3-position bilge pump with built-in fuse switch. So it's got auto, so you can switch it to auto mode or manual mode or off. So we'll get that installed, hooked up and installed today as well. And not to mention, let's look at now this is the bow light on the front of the boat. It was gigantic. This thing's probably about 8 inches long here. I opted, and it didn't have but a little LED, some kind of funky little LED light in it. It was not designed for it. It was an insult to lighting, but this is a really cool light, and I almost wanted to use it, but I decided to go with this little guy. Since it's right on the nose of the boat, and I'll be working off the nose of the boat here and there, picking up fish, doing whatnot, I decided to keep the obstructions to a minimum, and I went with this nice little LED light. Let me show you how bright it is right now. There you have it. So we're going to get busy installing some of this stuff and show you how I do it, and then we're going to get some juice in this boat and we'll make everything work and come to life. In order to mount the stern light, I got to open this hole back up, so this part of the stern light mount will fit back through. So let's drill that out. All right, now that we got the test fitting done, I can back these back out. Now, I tried something here. This one here, I did a little countersink, which is with a tool like this, which softens up those edges. I could have went a little deeper. I didn't do it on this hole, and you can see that it chipped out a little bit. This one started to crack. I should have went a little deeper. So if you're trying to drill a hole through this, you can put yourself a countersink in there. When you go to put your wood screw in there, it won't try to lift out and chip out your gel coat. Now, before I put this in, I'm gonna put some silicone around here, mainly because I want to seal it off pretty decent. And I'll put a little silicone around the bottom here, and that way this thing, when I could put it in, she'll be sealed off around the edges. Now, if you these little white dots you see here are where the old screw holes were, I took a little white gel coat, mixed it up, dabbed those full so it's sealed off, so this won't have just water that can go through and get into things. But I need to, before I fasten this in permanently, or semi-permanently I should say. I'm going to solder on some extensions onto these wires so they're accessible, because right now where it's down in the boat, it's hard to get up in there. I'll be working on my back upside down soldering. I'm better off going ahead and putting some wires in now, especially when I know that my switch controller that's going to run these is going to end up somewhere about right here. So I know about how much wire I need to put on there anyway, and that's just going to make life easier if I do it now. So let's get that soldered up, and then we'll lock this bad boy into place. There you have it, all mounted and siliconed in place, screws in place, and inside the boat here, I've got my wire extended in casing that will run up to the switch panel when we get the switch panel in. One down, 20 tasks to go. Now we've selected a position for the bilge pump switch, which is going to go right here. This switch has an on for the auto, but it's just a temporary, momentary switch for the on, which I kind of like that. That's nice for manual. And then it has a circuit breaker right here. If it happens to trip a breaker, it's got a built-in circuit breaker, so you don't have to deal with fuses. I kind of like that too. Cool part is this came with a template that fits around the features here on the backside. I don't know if that was on purpose or intended or not. So what I'm going to do is put it so I missed some instructions behind here, and then I'm going to tape it in place. Well, I'm pretty pleased with how that turned out. That's going to fit in there real nice. Not a lot of wiggle room there, but that goes right in there just perfect. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some tape to hold it in place. And I got a little tiny pilot drill here for this. I'll do one. Try the screw before I do the rest. Well, that's gonna just look awesome when I'm done. I like that a lot. All right, let's move on to the next piece. Next piece we're going to mount is this guy right here. And I'm pretty sure I can use this gasket for the pattern. Because I want to get this, I've got a bar underneath here that's about right here I need to stay away from, so I'm going to mark that with tape. We'll stay away from that a little ways so we don't run into it. So that runs about right there. Then there's a junction box right here I'm going to take out. So I got to figure out how to get underneath there and get that out. Now some of you might be asking, why did I put these so far apart? Well, there's a brace right here that's about this wide. And I also got to take advantage of, you know, I wanted to put it here. I could have shifted this thing down a little further, but it's like, why not just go ahead and get rid of these holes and replace them with something super duper cool in the process. So, that being said, I'll go ahead and line this knot like I did the other one, using the gasket as my pattern. If the gasket fits over it, then this ought to fit over it. about you guys, but I think that bad boy there is going to be pretty sharp. Like I said, you got your USB ports here we'll have for charging up your phone devices and whatnot, and a regular power outlet here. That is going to be way cool. I'm loving it. I'm digging that a big time lot. All right, let's see if we can get the bow light wired up now. Alrighty, we got the bow light installed. Turned out pretty good, pretty minimalistic. If you look at it in comparison to the rest of the boat, it doesn't stick out, but those LEDs are going to give it some excellent lighting. The one trick I did do, though, because the wires would be a pain in the butt to pull from the front of the boat to the back because they're all running through an area you can't access. So I took the existing wires and I soldered on the end, 2 new wires, and pulled the new wires through. So now I got fresh new wiring up in there. It turns out the wiring that was in there was in okay shape, but you know, better safe than sorry, because you never know. There was mice in this thing. You don't know what wires they had chewed through and whatnot. All right, so on to the next project. That's what the interior lights look like. I've got 6 green LED lights facing inward, mounted on the side, as you can see. And this is in a pitch black, completely dark shop right now. It's dark outside, it's dark in here, no other light sources around. So this gives you an idea of what you can see. And it's enough light that if you're in here in the boat at night, that you can see the entire floor of the boat. You could even tie a fishing line by this light easily enough, and it will gives you ample lighting for nighttime. And the green light should not impact your night vision as much as other colors could. But I'm really tickled with how that turned out. You could run these lights all night and have very little impact on your batteries. Everything on this boat now is suited up with LED lighting. The bow light and the stern light are both LED as well. So if you have to be out in the water all night, you don't have to worry about sitting there draining your battery. The other advantage you have with this boat, if you did drain your entire battery, this boat doesn't require batteries anyway, because it is a pull start outboard motor on it, and not an electric start where you got to maintain yet another battery. Well, let's take a look at what I did electrically on this boat. Now I have 2 12-volt deep cycle batteries in here, hooked up. They're not hooked up in series or parallel. I do have a series connection to create a 12-volt connection for my, or 24-volt connection for my trolling motor. What I have here is a Genius battery charger, 2 bank battery chargers. So I've got bank 1 and bank 2. These are 2 independently charged batteries. And I mounted a 1/2-inch piece of starboard, glued it to the wall of the boat, cut the carpet out, glued it to the wall so I could hook up my connections. I have a little fuse panel here, and I have there's 10 amps per battery charger, and it's a charger maintainer. It does both. Did a little research. I really like the features that this had over other ones. It wasn't cheap, but it's permanently on the boat. Over here, it's hard to see. I'll get you a close-up shot here in a minute. I got 2 circuit breakers, and they're both 40 amp waterproof circuit breakers designed for marine use. And those go to my trolling motor. So if there's trolling motors can draw a pretty good load. So you want to make sure that you have a breaker there so you don't end up smoking your wires or anything like that. Here we have my Garmin Striker fish finder. And basically I use it for a fish finder or a depth finder. This rotates, so when I'm sitting in the front seat fishing, I can see it. Or when I'm in the back seat driving or fishing from the back seat, I can see it. These are not very expensive. This is just a cute little fish finder. They work really well. I've got hummingbirds on my other boat, but I really like the Garmin here, these small Garmins for this type of work. Over here I have a 6-switch panel that has 2 USB chargers. One's a 1 amp and the other one's a 2.1 amp USB plug-in port here. You got your regular power outlet here, and it shows your battery condition. This has currently got 12.8 volts on the battery. Now I've got 6 switches here. I'm only using 2. So right there I've got my bow and stern light, and here is the green LED switch. I've got a C-flow switch for my bilge pump. This is one of those things you just hope you never have to use, but if you get caught in the rain, it's going to be nice. It's got an on because it has a float switch on the bilge pump that I purchased, and then it's got a momentary switch for if you just want to turn it on momentarily and hold it. Now what I've added here is a plug that plugs into your battery charger. So it allows you to take just your regular drop cord, pull this plug open, it's waterproof, and plug in your charger. That way, it's all you gotta do is unplug, close it off, and you're going fishing. When you come home, as you can see here, I've used it a little bit. It's gonna charge. The lights are red now, charging. They'll turn green when it's fully charged. Over here, while it's charging, you can see that the battery is now gone up to 14.2 volts. Once it's done charging, it'll turn green, it'll settle down, and it'll drop back down to about 13.5 volts while it's just sitting there. When you're done charging, all you gotta do is unplug, close the cap, you're off to the fishing. The 10 amp charger, 10 amps per battery bank charger should charge your batteries up fairly well. So if you use it all day, my hopes that it should charge it up overnight so you're ready for the next day. Now up front here we have my foot control for my, it's an old Evinrude. I don't know how old it is. I think these are from the 90s maybe. I haven't done a lot of in-depth research, but I did have to do some research to find a wiring diagram on how to hook these up because these are a little bit unique. These have the foot pedal switch has a 12 volt setting or a 24 volt setting. So the way this is wired up, it actually has 3 wires coming out of it. You hook the 12 volt batteries up in a series. That way, when you hook the one battery, hook this wiring up to the one battery, you get 12 volts. But when you flip the switch, it'll take you to a 24 volt situation, which has a significant impact on how fast the trolling motor will run. I'll show you that. I still have one major flaw I want to fix on this. These Evinrudes have I've got 3 of these, and only one of them I bought recently actually had the lens on it so I could try to copy it because I'm not sure that's available anymore. But that normally would pop in there, and this would snap in here. Well, this doesn't snap in very well any longer. And I think that's how these always end up missing anyway. But as you can see, it's your directional indicator. Plus, you're not going to be able to see it very well. I guess it does show up a little bit. It actually lights up. If you have it on 24 volt, it really lights up bright. Let's go down and look at how fast that prop's spinning. Now you guys are probably going to give me a bunch of crap about trying to use this old trolling motor, but the deal is it works. The pedal movement is very smooth and fluid. It's got a weird little kick design there at the bottom, how that pipe is bent. We'll see what that does for things. But as you can see, you can hear the difference for sure. And I'll show you the RPM difference. It has 3 speeds on each setting. So low on the 12 volt setting. I'll turn it on here and see if you can see this. Oops. Like 1454 RPMs, 1460, somewhere in there, RPMs. We go to 24 volt on the same low setting. Basically it doubles. It's 3075. That's on low. You go on high, it's 3100 and let's call it 180. 3180. So the 1224 thing is kind of unique. This will be today, hopefully it'll be the first day I put it in the water and actually see how that really performs. But I go back I go back to why am I using this old trolling motor? Well, it was already attached to the boat. I plugged it in. Well, I had to rewire the pedal a little bit. Rewired the pedal according to the wiring diagram and it worked. So it's like, okay, let's use it. Let's try it out before I spend a bunch of money on another trolling motor. One thing I've enjoyed about this boat is the wide open floor concept here, because there is nothing in the way. If you go all the way back to the beginning, the console that this used to have, a steering console and throttle control that used to be in here. Well, it didn't have a throttle control, but it had the console. Pulled it out, removed it, didn't want it in here. Wanted to turn this into a tiller steer boat. This boat, my intention with this boat is to take it out and just do a bunch of small pond fishing. I shouldn't say small pond fishing, I want to do bass fishing. Had to glue my trim up. That's the only piece of trim that had fallen down. Now we got her locked and loaded. But I wanted the open concept, so we got our 6-gallon fuel tank back here to run the old 9.9 Johnson with the big secret. It's a 15 horse. But we're going to see how that performs on the water today. The boat motor trailer with batteries, full fuel tank, is just a shade over 1,000 pounds for the, like I said, that's trailer, boat, fully loaded, ready to go in the water, around 1,000 pounds. So it's relatively light, not as light as the Sea Nymph, of course. The Sea Nymph that you guys have been watching my videos, the Sea Nymph only weighs about 600 pounds, boat, motor, trailer. So it's quite a bit lighter, but 400 pounds difference. And this being a lot bigger, sturdier fiberglass boat with that floor is rock solid. I encourage you guys, if you haven't watched it, watch the previous 4 parts of this series of what I did to this boat. Now, when I bought this boat, I wasn't planning on doing a complete overhaul, rebuild of the interior and stuff like that, but it's one of those things that was such a cool design. I really like the color. It's an old color. You can't buy a boat this color these days, and probably for good reason. It's not as attractive, but it will be unique when you're out on the water in it. And a unique, clean, old boat is just kind of neat, catches people's eye, but that's not what I'm all about. I like the older stuff. I've got a 1976 Starcraft. Now I have a 1969 Sea Nymph. I have a 1972 Glasspar that is going to be, and I have not found this model or style anywhere on the internet. I found some things that look very close to it, but nothing like this one. And it's kind of weird that it could, I don't say it's the only one left in the world, but I tell you what, I would love to do another one like this. I know they made these in a green. If I could find one like this in green, it's like I don't know if you want to call it a pea green. I'd love to do one like that and have a set of them, one in this color and one in green. But I would actually go one step further on my next one, and I'd actually split the top fiberglass in half from the bottom and rework the entire bottom. And might even decide to put a couple trap doors up front for some storage on the front bow area. The other great thing with having this wide open concept here is I got plenty of room to move around. Now on this far side over here, I am going to install some rod holders. Actually, I'm going to try to create those this morning, get them in here, and actually put a few fishing poles in here before I go to the lake today. But otherwise, it's kind of all I got to do is bring my tackle box, throw it in here, and I'm ready to go fishing. I don't have a live well, but that's where I do have those portable live wells. Most of the fishing I do is catch and release, so I don't need a live well. I've got a little minnow bucket that I could throw in here if I'm actually wanting to use some minnows. But like I said, my intention with this boat is to actually go out and just do some bass fishing, some shoreline, springtime, shoreline, topwater fishing for largemouth. So yeah, this is kind of built specific for that, but you could fish for anything. I wouldn't be the lights are in here because chances are I could end up out there in the lake or river somewhere doing some nighttime catfishing as well. So I was kind of looking to keep my options open from that perspective. And as you can see, because of the color of this boat, I've been calling this one the Banana. I made my decal, so now it's an official. We got that on both sides. It's called the Banana. That's the name of this boat. And I've got my RMD Creations, my YouTube channel, decaled on the side to hopefully drive some more traffic to my channel, just like you folks are seeing here, and enjoy some how-to videos or how it went videos. Well, the day has come, folks. It's a beautiful day this Sunday. It's going to get up to about 55 degrees. The Banana is done except for the rod holders, but that doesn't mean I can't take it out on the water. You guys have been waiting as long as I have to get this bad boy on the water. But first, this motor's been sitting for quite a while. Obviously I run the carburetor empty when I put it away. But let's see if we can make it run. Well, the plan was to get this out on order today, but during my test run, like I always like to do, this motor hasn't ran since April. It's been sitting, waiting for this boat to get finished, and then it was going to be ready to go. So I decided to put the muffs on, fire it up. Notice I wasn't getting a lot of water flow, virtually none. Actually zero this time. So I went and reviewed some of my video back in April and noticed that the water stream wasn't crazy strong, but had a new water pump in. Pulled the thermostat off, and look what I discovered. Thermostat housing off. Here's your housing. Here's my thermostat in multiple pieces. Here's the spring, the little do-flopper plunger inside. It's just all in little pieces. So that's not good at all. So I had to order a new thermostat. And it won't be here till next weekend, so all my plans were thwarted till next weekend. But that's how it goes. But the good news is I didn't get all the way out to the lake, try to run my motor, figure out my motor wasn't kicking out any water, and then overheat the thing and ruin the motor. So we'll wait one more week. Anyway, next weekend's supposed to be in the 70s instead of the 50s anyway, so it'll be a plus to wait a week anyway. So we'll put these screws back in here for safekeeping, and when the thermostat shows up, we shall put this back together and run it, and then we'll head to the lake hopefully. The marineengine.com came through for me. Here's my old thermostat in pieces. Here's a brandy new one. Came with a new seal, which is awesome. So the good news is that fits right in there like that. We got our spring. There's a little plastic cap that was in here. Looks like the spring sat against, so we'll put that back in there. And the seal around here looks pretty good. Well, it wasn't leaking before, so hopefully it reseals again, because I did not get one of those. Yeah, we should be able to put our bolts back in and tighten it down and have a thermostat that works properly. Hooray! The banana may be on the water tomorrow. We're gonna pull this back off the boat, put it in my test tank. We're gonna run it for a little bit in the test tank and make sure she's 110% before I take her out on the water. But in April, she ran like a top. And for some reason, it wasn't running quite so good. But I have a feeling I think we can make her run. You got the old torque wrench on here. Click. Click. We switch modes. Beep. beep, 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 properly torqued. Well, we learned a lot today. We went out on the lake, took the old banana out. The boat did everything the boat was supposed to do. Can't say that the motor did. So, we're going to talk about this little 15 horse. Anyway, we went out and ran this thing for about 20 minutes. And then it started slowing down, and then it died. It just plain died, and I couldn't get it restarted. And I also noticed there's two things going on, I think. We noticed that there was extra fuel coming out of the carburetor, so that tells me that something's not quite right with the carburetor. Even though it ran great in the tank and didn't give me any troubles, I had it running in the tank for, golly, 30 minutes. And had it in gear running, and it just, it did fine. That's a real cricket, that's not sound effects. Silence. Anyway. This motor is, definitely underpowered. There was a few people that called it, that left comments that it's underpowered for this boat. This boat isn't crazy heavy. The whole boat, trailer, batteries, and everything rolling across the scale is about 1,000 pounds total. The Sea Nymph, if you see my other videos, the Sea Nymph weighs about 600 pounds, same condition. And a little 9.9 will push it along about 12 miles an hour. I could hit 6 miles an hour was top end on this thing yesterday. But it gets you A to B, it gets you to a fishing spot, but the balance in the boat is something else we'll talk about here in a minute. But anyway, hydrofoil on that 15 horse, somebody called it, I can't remember who it was, waste of money, guaranteed. Bigger horsepower motor, probably great. This horsepower motor on a much lighter boat, it probably would give you some more stabilization, but for this setup, not worth it. But yeah, the motor died, so I got to figure out what's going on. I tried changing spark plugs out there, and out there in the bright sunlight, it was hard to see, but I couldn't see any spark. I was checking for spark, and it's like my spark went away. So did the module go out on this thing while I was out there? It's just dumb luck. I mean, it is an older motor. It's an 87, I think, or 88. It is an older motor, so it's been around a long time, and that stuff appears to be very original. So that'll be another video for another day. We'll figure out why this quit running on me, and we'll fix it. And another thing we're going to do, let's spin the camera around. These are some lessons learned. And as you can see, I grouped the batteries together. For good or better, I grouped them together, thinking it would be nice to have them nice and tidy and tight together here. But with me sitting on this side of the boat, I knew this would be a little extra weight. I knew the gas tank would be a little bit of counterbalance, but it wasn't enough. I think I'm going to take this battery here and move it to the other side of the boat. The nice thing is I can run the wiring underneath here, but there's only two wires. There's the charging wires, and then this the wires that make this so the trolling motor can run 24 volts. I'm going to move it to the other side. Minimal amount of wiring extension. And I still have my 24 volts for the batteries here and balance in the boat. Plus, the boat's a little nose heavy. When it sits in the water, with nobody in it, it sits pretty good. But you get somebody sitting up front, it sits fairly nose heavy. Now, when I bought this boat over a year ago, the guy I bought it from said it had I asked him what size motor did this have on it, because the plate over here has no information left that I can see on it as to a maximum horsepower that this boat can handle. He said it had a 50 horse motor on it. And I was like, that seems like a big motor for this boat. But after having it out on the water and having this out here on here and seeing the balance of the boat in the water, 50 horse, this thing needs a 200 pound plus motor hanging back here. It would support it no problem whatsoever, but it would also give the right attitude to the boat. So if I do decide to fish up front, it doesn't feel like the front end's sagging. This would actually give me some counterbalance back here on the back of the boat. So I'm actively searching for a tiller steer 50 horse. I found one, but I don't think I'm going to buy it. I'm going to keep my eyes open. I got all winter to search and see what I can find. But I think a 50 horse on here would be ideal. It should be able to get to about almost 30 miles an hour with that on it. And so that'll get up on step. With this thing on plane, it should move pretty good and run pretty good in the water. The other thing that saved our butts yesterday was the 12 volt / 24 volt trolling motor. Let's take a look at that. So the old Evinrude Scout trolling motor did do its job. It ran and it worked, and it works on 12 and 24 volt just fine. It would run, honestly, at 2.5, I think it was 2.5 miles an hour on the 24 volt side in the high setting. And glad we had that, because when the motor quit running, we were over a half a mile away from the dock. And it was windy, and we'd have been having to paddle into a headwind, and that wouldn't have been any fun at all. Running on a 24 volt side on the high setting, or 12 volt on the high setting, it would run 1.2 miles an hour, but it was running 2.5 on the 24 volt setting. So we ran it on the 24 volt setting to get us all the way back to the dock. My son was up here steering us back to the dock while I was sitting there trying to fiddle with the motor to see if I could figure out what was going on. I'd love to have a lot more drone footage for you than I have. Stay to the end, you'll see the drone footage of what we did capture of it going through the water. It's a neat contrast for camera shots with this yellow against a lake water, but it's even better when it's running. Lessons learned. But yeah, we're gonna definitely put a bigger motor on this boat. My guess is you won't see us back on the water with this boat until I do have a 50 horse hanging on here, because that's gotta happen. It's just gotta happen. This motor sludging through the water at this motor and this boat sludging through the water at 6 miles an hour. It's an A to B thing, but it sure as heck ain't any fun. When you get out on a big lake to get to a fishing spot, you don't want to spend a half hour going 4 miles to get to your fishing spot. You want to go. The other thing, I've had these pedal style. I haven't. This is the first pedal style I've had. I've been in boats that had the pedal style trolling motor control with the mechanical thing. Some people like them. I don't. I like the push button where you just like click, click, and it's a motorized rotation. The last two trolling motors I had on the Starcraft have been that way, and I want to keep going that direction. I like the spot lock. So when you find a spot to fish in, you want to anchor, you just hit that spot lock and it anchors you there, holds you in that position. That's valuable to me. Because then you could actually anchor, move a little bit, anchor again. You're not sitting there pulling a rope up and down. Call me spoiled, but I know what I like, and that's all there is to that. I'm going to end up with a better trolling motor on this boat. Yeah, it's not going to be the Altera like I have on the Starcraft, but it's going to be something comparable, but not going to go with the top of the line. We're going to go with a little less money, but it's got to have the directional navigation. It's got to have the spot lock, and it's going to be a 24-volt setup. It doesn't have to have a mechanical deploy. Manual deploy is fine with me, but it's definitely going to have a wired control. This wire that controls this, that goes to the pedal, is super stiff. It's not convenient. The stuff that comes with the newer stuff obviously is better. Anyway, this was fun. I got to try it. It does work, but I think we're gonna replace it with something a little more substantial. Plus, I'm gonna mount some spotlights up here, so if I'm out after dark and I want to see where I'm going, I'm gonna put some spotlights up here. But anyway, what else can I tell you about this? Well, the other thing I like when I came home after running the batteries, I obviously didn't run the batteries down very far, just out there trolling with it. Maximum for about, 30 minutes, 45 minutes to get back to the dock. Just to be able to come home, plug a drop cord in here, and the charger takes over and charges my batteries back to full. By this morning, they were fully charged. I'd be curious to see when I drain them down really good, how much it would take to get them back to fully charged with this. This is a 10 amp per battery bank charger, so it's going to charge things up relatively quick without doing damage to the batteries. But no, everything else, I love the boat because it's roomy. I got to get some rod holders in here yet. So there's more videos to come on this boat, but it's going to be a while until I can get me a 50 horse, because until I get a new motor on the boat, there's no sense in taking it out. We're gonna park it until I find me a motor, and we'll continue to work on these other outboards I got laying around here. And the good news is I salvaged today. My son and I salvaged today. We went out and we were out and back within about 2.5 hours or 3 hours of messing around with this when the motor failed. And we went and grabbed an old 4-horse Mercury that I worked on that I haven't sold yet and haven't had it on the water. So we tried it out. We had a good time and did a little fishing on a small lake nearby. Stay tuned for that video. It's coming out soon too. But so enjoy the drone footage. At the end, like I said, there's very little of it, but you'll see the boat on the water. I think it looks pretty good on the water myself, but it definitely could use a more powerful motor. Guys, thanks for being patient and watching this video and getting all the way to part 5 and actually seeing the banana registered on the water. Now, I think I might have mentioned this before, but yeah, it took me 7 weeks to get the paperwork cleared so I could get this registered in my name, and that's all done now. It's mine, free and cleared. No issues, no problems. I suggest if you're going to buy a boat, if it doesn't have paperwork, be patient. At least here in Iowa, you're going to have to wait 6 to 8 weeks to get your paperwork back. They say 4 to 6, but with the COVID and everything, look out. Other than that, we had a good time. Even a bad day on the water, it was a little frustrating, but you're still out there floating around. I didn't do any fishing out there. We were just out there testing the boat. But get out there, folks. Do something fun. Enjoy life. Find a hobby. Get into it deep. I get into my hobbies way deeper than I probably should, but the results are amazing. You end up with some pretty neat projects along the way. And we'll keep on searching and keep on finding and fixing. Another good thing that happened on this boat is the bilge area, bone dry. Not a drop of water in it. The boat doesn't leak a drop. Where it shouldn't. The hull is solid and perfectly sealed, so there shouldn't be any water getting in from the underside. We did have some water splashing up yesterday, but it hits the carpet. It stays in the carpet, pretty much evaporated out before it even got back to the bilge. Had the bilge pumps ready to rock and roll. We've got it all set up here for you can either temporary or turn it on for it to be in the on position and let the float switch do its work. But I was almost gonna take some water and scoop it in just to make sure it worked, but as dry as it's been, it's gonna take some pretty good waves coming over the boat to put a lot of water in the boat. And with as much flotation foam I got in here, I'm not too worried about it staying above board. So you guys get out there and have some fun, enjoy life. I've had a lot of fun with this boat. We're gonna have a lot more fun. You're gonna see the banana on the water more and more, especially once I get the 50 horse motor on there. We're gonna take this one because it's a nice sized boat. My Starcraft is a fun boat to be into it, but it's big. It's an 18 foot, and that doesn't seem like that's too big, but it's with inboard outboard. It's a lot of boat. As opposed to this guy, gives me, I think I actually got the same amount of square footage of working space inside this boat as I do that one. Obviously there's a little less seating, but it's just smaller, more maneuverable, and it's just gonna be easy. I've taken that Starcraft into some pretty tight areas too, but this one could go in a little bit tighter areas. And I like the fact that I just like the looks of the boat. I'm just enthralled with the looks of the boat. I'm looking. And I'd love to find another one similar to this, but they make it in a green. It's in a, I don't know, it's almost an olive drab green gel coat. I'd love to restore one similar to this style in green. I don't know why. I love the old stuff. I just can't get over the old stuff, and especially if it's like this one that's been preserved and it's a survivor as far as the gel coat goes. The rest of it's easy. Well, it didn't seem easy. There's a lot of work here, but you could get it done. But I think if I did another one, I'm going to take this rail off right here, and I'd split the halves and really go after it and do something different. Especially up front here, I'd probably put some more storage. But you guys get out there, enjoy life, have some fun, enjoy the drone footage at the end, enjoy the music. I know some of you complain about the music. I like the music. Sorry, there's still going to be music in some of my videos for sure. And but that's just this channel. If it's not your cup of tea, I'm sorry. I have about one person in every about 6,000 views. No, not even that often. It's probably every 20 to 50,000 views. I'll have one person leave a comment that says, "Oh, I don't like the music." Every time I hear music, I just shut it off. But that's okay. They can just not subscribe. But you and I are hanging out together because you like seeing what I do, and I love bringing this information and content to you guys. Well, that's pretty much all I got to say about this, and we'll see you on the next video, folks. This is Michael, and I'm out.